So here is a quick introduction to how you can add behaviors to your 3D objects inside Polygonjs, and you can do that without any coding. So let's start by removing this sphere, and I'm going to replace that by a simple box. And then the next thing I'm going to do is add an actor node. And actor nodes are basically the nodes which allow you to create those behaviors. So I'm going to link those and display the actor node. And now if I start to play, we can see that this box is already moving. And in order to understand why it is moving, we need to have a look inside. So I'm going to keep playing, and I'm going inside, and I can see that a few nodes have already been created for me to give me a starting point. So the first one is on tick, which means on every frame, and that sends an event on each of those frames. And you can see this collection being highlighted, and then this is what is going to be run when it receives the trigger. And if I was to disconnect that, then the trigger stops. So I'm going to reconnect that. And then this is set object position. So this is what is going to change the position of that object. That position is defined by what is connected here, or it could be defined by this parameter, but that's being overridden by the connection. And that comes from this float to vex3, which has an input of a sinus in the y component, which itself has an input from the time, which is why we have this motion. So now we can modify that. We can simply change the position, and I can change that to any parameter, and I can put it like this, or I can even use a lerp, which is going to define how quickly this transition happens. If the lerp is 1, transition is instant. If it's less than 1, the transition is going to be more gradual. So if I have it to this value and I change this, then the object moves gradually to the next position. So now let's not use this, and let's try and use different events and different actions. And you can see when I display the tab menu by pressing tab, I have different events. For instance, we have the tick, which is here, but we also have pointer down, pointer up, hover, click, and a few others. And we have several actions that we can use. And this is just a small list. There is going to be more in the future. So let's, for instance, try and have the object scale being changed when I hover the mouse over the object. So we're going to use the hover event, and we're going to use set object scale. So if I plug one to the other, right now nothing is going to change, except that we can see that this connection is being changed when the mouse goes over the object or when the mouse goes away from the object. And so we can define this new value here, so that when next time it's being called, the scale is going to change. And then if I move away, then we don't have a change yet, because we only have this value. Whenever that gets executed, it's always with a scale of 1.4. So we need to define a different scale depending if we hover over the object, or if the mouse is over the object, or if the mouse is not over the object. And for that, we can use this hovered state, which is going to tell us if the mouse is over or not. So how do we plug this into here? We can use a two-way switch. And now we can use two different values here. So if we are over the object, we're going to use, let's say, 1.2. And if we are not, we're going to use 1. So now if I move my mouse over it, we have a big scale. If I'm not on the object, then we keep changing the scale. And that is pretty much it. Then we can, because we are in a procedural environment, we can duplicate the object and it will keep this behavior. So if I simply add a transform and I use a merge node, and if I just make sure to have the object and I can move it around, now we have two different objects which have this behavior. Or I can even copy many more of those objects. If I take a plane, for instance, and I use a copy node, so now if I make this a little smaller so we can see them, and I can even make the plane bigger so we have more boxes. And now you can see that the whichever box over which is under my mouse is going to be larger. So that's how you create behavior. So we've seen a small behavior for now, but we're going to see in a follow-up video how to make even more nicer, more elaborate behaviors. So see you in the next video.